Okay, welcome back, gentlemen. So, we have the return of Mr. G. And for the first time on this channel, at least, I am going to be showcasing one of the Battle Royale free for all type games. Um, I've only ever played this game mode once before, and there's a reason why. I used to play a lot of Risk when I was much younger, and I absolutely loved that game. But the reason why I stopped playing the game was that I realized that when you get into games like this, right, where it's multiple players all facing off against each other and they're all basically going against the same goal. There's a specific name for these types of games, but I can't quite recall what the exact term is. Um but what happens in games like this is that it looks like it's a strategy game, right? Like Risk, for example, it looks like a strategy game. You got a world map, you got all the countries, you got all these different territories, and you've got, resource allocation. You have continents that give you bonuses to your troops and all this and that. And then throughout the game, you make alliances and non-aggression pacts and this, that, and the other. So at face value, it looks like it's a strategy game, and it is very much is considered a strategy game by all definitions. But you get to the point where you realize that it's less about strategy and more about player psychology when you get to like the higher level stuff. And it's the same. It's the same for the free for all mode here in War of Dots. It's not so much about your strategic decisions, but more of your ability to read the how the game is progressing and also read all your opponents and what they're thinking, what they're doing. There's a pro risk player, online risk player called called Pete. I think that's his name. But his channel name is the Kill Pete Strategy, and he talks about it a lot. I haven't watched any of his videos in quite some time actually, but he brought it up. He brings it up quite a few times when he's casting games as well, and when he's commentating his own gameplay because he's one of the best there is. Yeah, player psychology is basically what determines who gets like the really high win ratios and win rates in games like these. The strategy part, it's not as important as it is when I cast like the one-on-one stuff or when I play the one-on-one stuff and I try to explain like this is the kind of build order that we're going for and these are the different like fronts that we're going to fight on, and we're going to micro here, we're going to try and collapse the defense on the other flank here so that it's not as micro intensive. It doesn't really matter. These kind of things that I usually talk about, it doesn't really matter once you get into the free for all type game modes like this. And the funny thing is, Mr. G here, he sent in two replays. So this is a series technically. It's back to back that he plays against one other player here, which I'm not gonna say right now, just not to spoil anybody. But there's somebody else here that he's gonna get into some kind of drama that goes on for this game and the game after. So we'll see. But yeah, as I was saying, it comes down to player psychology. It comes down to whether or not you're able to read the room and read your opponents and try to figure out like what it is they're doing. And by what I mean, like what it is they're doing, right? We're not talking about maneuvers or operations or like that. It's trying to figure out their rationale of how they want to play the game. It's like, is this guy going to just YOLO everything into me or not? And if he's not gonna do that, is he gonna do that to somebody else? And then the question is like, okay, maybe I should just step aside. And it's these are the kind of things that occur. Yes, technically you could argue that this is strategy, but it's not the kind of strategy that I'm interested in. It's not the kind of strategy that my YouTube channel is focused on. My YouTube channel is focused on, more traditional kind of things, like how do you bridge operations tactics, or in some of my very old videos where I play Foxhole, it was, politics and drama and how you bridge all that together. Okay, apologies, folks, but I had to pause my recording there to deal with some IRL stuff. I'm actually continuing this match almost more than 48 hours since I recorded that intro just there. So let me commentate on the actual gameplay here for a second. What we saw here, well, at least if you were paying attention, is that purple, Mr. Ranry, I want to call him Ron. Yeah, we'll go with that. Ron Weasley. Yeah, he decided to start an offensive against blue. Eugen. You. Okay. Yeah. No, not me. You. Anyway, yeah, he decided to start an offensive in the western side, and he actually got minor encirclement, got almost a breakthrough. But what happened there is that you he decided to redeploy his entire front line that was arrayed against Mr. G here, who's in red, and basically got numerical superiority, managed to get around on the flank, and has managed to push Ron here pretty far back. So Ron is actually kind of split up on land here. He's got forces on the island in the southwest, and the rest of his forces on the mainland in the east. Mr. G here is playing it cool. Now, Mr. G here is doing a strategy which Girth actually wanted me to talk about because he sent in a replay. The problem was is that by the time I got around to having the time to record, there was an update, and basically it void whenever there's an update, all the previous replays from the previous version of the game, they get voided, so you can't watch them anymore. So yeah, that's lost the time. But the point that we wanted to discuss was regarding using boats, because when you have a navy unit, it doesn't cost any upkeep. So there's a way to game the ecosystem where you can just put units out to sea, and it frees up upkeep for you to build your economy and then build more units. At least in theory. Um, in a free for all like this, right? I can kind of see the efficacy in it, but me and Girth share kind of, I think, similar viewpoint on using that strategy in a one-on-one type thing. Yes, it can give you an economic boost that can give you a significant advantage in the short term. But when you play at like higher level, ranking gameplay of War of Dots, it doesn't really factor in. Um, because what I'm trying to say is that usually that strategy of where you're putting boats into the water and okay, hang on. Mr. G managed to snipe Blue City here, Use City here. I don't think he was paying attention because he's too busy microing down here against Ron, and that is actually, yeah, he's not paying attention at all. He's been encircled. He's already losing multiple units, and only now he's started to maneuver. Yikes! This happens. This happens. We'll come back to this again because there's something that he's literally just it's a pixel away from sniping the city, because Ron himself is now collapsed. Uh, G here, he decided to double team, get in on the double team action here, and yeah, not bad. Yeah, we're not seeing him push into that because he's busy trying to finish off the encirclements in the north. This is normal, right? This is normal gameplay for War of Dots. It happens even in other RTS games. Not everyone is capable of doing like 600 APM and managing like three different fronts all simultaneously to pinpoint accuracy. It's not gonna happen. So long as you get like the main big strategic and operational kind of stuff in War of Dots, you get that nailed down, you will see your win rates go up. And like here, you can see the decision of G to wait for his two opponents on the other side to go at each other before making any serious moves, and also playing the long game where, as I was saying, the strategy of putting your units into the water, free up upkeep, build more, build the eco, and get units into the field. It's worked very much to his advantage. So, as I was saying, I think I've started like three different topics in the last like 3 minutes, and I've completely forgotten what all three of them were. I don't think I finished talking about the boat strategy, but yeah, regarding the boat strategy, people think it's a good strategy because they try it out, and because the matchmaking system in the game isn't um it's not foolproof. I don't think it is that sophisticated actually. From what I've heard is that it doesn't actually match you. The matchmaker doesn't match elo to elo. It doesn't attempt to do that like how more traditional systems like in chess, for example, usually when you go online on in online chess, when you get into a game or when you start searching for a game, it will try to match you against someone that's on a similar elo level. I think for what was explained to me was that that's not quite how this game works because it's not that well developed. It's only a single developer. I don't blame him. So it's not like that part of the thing hasn't been like quite figured out properly. But yeah, it goes into the problem is that people think it's a good strategy because they're playing against people that don't really know how to play the game in the first place. But in reality, in a one-on-one situation, the boat upkeep strategy, it doesn't really help out because you're gonna have to spend a lot of time like keeping track of the boats that you set out. Because remember, even though you switch your land unit into a navy unit, it's not invincible. It will eventually die off. It's just unlike putting a land unit into water, get the debuff, and then it starts taking a lot of damage per tick. The navy units, they too have a lifespan. It's just a lot longer once it's switched to a boat. Um, so you're gonna have to keep in mind once you put your units out into sea, how many you've put out, how much of that upkeep that you're building up into your eco, and then once you actually do decide to surge the front line by bringing back the navy units into land and then putting it forward, you're on a time limit because now you've got more units than your cities can supply. You're gonna start draining your supply, and eventually they will die off. So there's all these other things, and quite frankly, if you're gonna take the time to do all that right in a one-on-one situation, um you'd be better off just focusing on your cycling on the front line. You would definitely get more value out of your units and your eco by doing that instead of trying to do that the navy eco boost kind of thing. So yeah, that's what I've got to say about that. And I think Girth is on the same line, although Girth probably has other reasons why he disagrees with that strategy. And of course, he can do that because he'll just beat whoever is gonna do it. The replay that he did send in, I think, was him beating somebody that was high ranking that was doing that strategy. Yeah, so it's a shame that I didn't get enough time to record that game. But yeah, okay. So we have interesting developments. G here is very much in the dominant position. He's got more troops than both of his opponents combined. That's pretty significant. That is pretty significant. But it also means that there's a big target on his head. This is um I'm going off risk strategy here in my experience with risk gameplay. Once an opponent or somebody on the board here has, more units than the next two players combined, he is the threat basically. And is usually what happens is that there's agreement that happens. Well, in a more high level games in risk, there usually it becomes an unwritten rule amongst the players is that okay, if we want to have a chance of winning, we've got to stop this guy. We've got to double team him. However, however, it seems here that that's not how the rationale is going. Remember what I was saying about player psychology when you're playing into multiplayer free-for-all matches like this? It doesn't matter what you think is the most logical or rational decision. It's what the opponents are thinking that is rational to them. Because in this case here, Ron is just gonna backstab Blue. And he's managed to pull it off. He's got one city. He's about to snipe the second one. He didn't even bother garrisoning the first city here on the western seacoast line here. He just he just went in and just walked right through. And G over here, he's just slaughtering U. Um yeah, that's a little bit unfortunate. Yeah, good lord. What is happening here? So the way the fog of war works for those who don't know, it's not the units themselves that give the line of sight. It's actually the border. So in this case here, no one can actually see what Ron is doing because his units are so far back from the border. They're in the fog of war, and they can't see that. So he's managed to, whilst you here was being destroyed by Mr. G, swing around the back on the left here and has capped both his capital city and one of his westernmost cities. G is now moving forward with his mass, and he's got the game. There's no way either of these guys can come back. The tipping point could easily like 5-7 minutes ago. Yeah, there's not much that can happen here. But as I was saying, I know there's another point that I raised that I have completely forgot, but we'll just go with the player psychology kind of thing in a free for all match game like this. Yeah, it all comes down to your ability to read what everyone else is thinking. And like I said, not thinking in terms of strategy or operations, but like the rationale. Because right there, Ron's best play should have been to go after Mr. G and not backstab you because he had more units than both of you combined. Um, he's the biggest threat. If you want to have the chance to win, you're gonna have to forego certain things, and this happens a lot actually. There's been quite a few risk games where I've won where it basically came down to me not having the strategy of actually trying to win the game. As counterintuitive as that sounds, that's just the way these games work. But it has happened. I'm not the only one who has done it. Kill Pete strategy. He's got recorded games of such instances where it started off like in a good okay position, then the situation degraded into such a way that there was no credible like clear route to victory, straight line to victory, that basically meant that you had to adopt a different kind of strategy, which basically didn't prioritize winning the whole game. um yeah, I have I have a hunch that we're going to see more of that in the next replay here. But this is the first of this series. I'm going to put both of these replays back to back. I'm not too sure how long that's going to take, but we will continue this conversation in the next replay. Okay, we are into the second replay of this series of two. And yes, here's the spoiler. It's Ron. Weasley himself has returned. Yes, he's the guy that is gonna have some drama here. So this brings up another thing that goes off our previous topic regarding player psychology in these free for all games. A lot of people complain that what do I do when I get teamed up? Teamed up against, if it's a 2-on-1 situation. The answer to that is that you die. I'm just okay, not entirely true. Kill Pete strategy. He's got a bunch of videos of explaining how you survive such situations, but it happens. Basically, is what my only thing to say is when you play games like these. Yes, there is skill involved. Yes, there is strategy involved. I'm not trying to say that there is zero strategy. I'm just saying it's a different kind of game and a different kind of strategy that you have to adopt when you play these free for all games. I know there's going to be a lot of people that are going to be probably have already started putting comments below regarding the comments that I made just now. I couldn't care less what they think because I know how these games are played. But it's nuanced, right? And nuance doesn't exist on the internet, and it sure as hell doesn't exist in RTS games. But yeah, it's these things that you have to balance if you want to have win rates, that are higher than 50%. And if you want to like, win, quote unquote, these are the things that you're gonna have to juggle when you play these types of games. But yeah, so what happens when you get double teamed straight off the bat? You just gotta the way it works in Risk is that you just gotta try and avoid and evade and survive. And then wait for them to fuck up somehow. At least that's the way that I usually handle the situation. Like for example, in Risk, if you are trying to go for a continent bonus, let's say you're going to South America, but then the dude that's deploying most of his forces into North America at the opening, he's gonna try and be greedy, and he's gonna try and this is a hypothetical situation I'm talking about here. In this situation, let's say you're going for South America, and the dude that's gone from North America, he's trying to be greedy in this hypothetical situation, and he's trying to attack you in South America to get both the continent bonuses. So you have the option of either confronting him, which would be, pretty bad because both of you are gonna be bleeding each other of your forces. It's gonna open you guys up to being outflanked from the other opponents on the field. And chances are, if you go like very early on in Risk and you start going into a suicide kind of death mode war against just a single opponent, the chances of both of you winning the game in the long term is decreasing exponentially. Okay, hang on. Okay, so we have Ron Weasley back here against Mr. G, but we have Shrivers here in blue. Shrivers has decided to go in a massive naval invasion here. And because of the way the cities are deployed, he's managed to do this and not get immediately encircled. Because he's got the city on the most western side here, and he's kept the front line pretty close. His power projection capabilities are pretty good, so it's not a complete suicide assault move. However, it is very dangerous, as we can see the line here, how close it is to being cut off. Uh, yeah, it only a couple of units need to move in here, and these guys are dead. But that's what's going on there. Mr. G has decided to build the tank on the island and 2 lights. Yeah, okay, nothing wrong there. I can't really comment on build orders for free for alls because I don't have much experience with it. And like I said before, I don't think it really matters. This is a ballsy move right here. This right here, this is peak War of Dots, ladies and gentlemen. Mr. G, understanding pure game mechanics. Yes, it's not a good idea to put a land unit on uh hang on. Yeah, there we go. I forgot. I got that one toggled off. It's not a good idea to put a land unit onto water because you get the debuff here and basically it takes serious damage over time. But remember, Navy units don't power project, only land units. So he read the situation correctly and he went for it. He cut it off. Shrivas here is no fool either. So he saw that and he's trying to counter with his own unit. But he's not paying attention. He left this unit on for too long. Oh, he switched it. Oh, I think I know why. Oh, this is actually peak naval warfare right here. Because over time, if you have a navy unit fighting a land unit that's debuffed in water like this, he should be able to come out on top. So yeah, that's actual navy warfare right there, ladies and gentlemen. Uh, this was beautiful. That right there is like worth watching this replay. You don't see that kind of gameplay often. Very impressive. Very impressive. Okay, now we've got a heavy against a light navy unit. Just because the heavy started off with more health, he's gonna come out on top there. I think in terms of damage output, the light naval unit actually does outdo the heavy naval unit. So in a sustained engagement, if they started off in like even oh no, but we have to take into account the extra health of the heavy unit, even once it's switched over to a navy, its navy counterpart. Yeah, I haven't quite seen the full math done on it. I know what the base stats are, but I haven't like seen the numbers and the charts of the combat once it gets underway. I haven't put too much thought into it myself. But yeah. Okay, in the time that battle was going on, Shrivas here has managed to cap G's capital here. But that naval engagement right there, basically has stalled this whole assault. So there is opportunity here for G to counterattack and get it back. On the other side, we have Ron, and this is what G wanted me to. Well, no, this is what G mentioned to me. He did say if I wanted to avoid spoilers, not to see what the chat was going on in the main Discord, but I usually don't pay much attention to the main Discord anyway, so it didn't work out. But all he did mention was that Ron Weasley here was going to have a vendetta, and they basically, going back to what we were talking about earlier, you will get in situations here where you piss off a guy in the matchmaker, and then his rationale for the rest of the evening is just going to be, I want to kill this guy because he beat me in the press game. Like there is no strategy, like traditional strategy, to like help you out in that situation. All right. So as I said, nuance. All right, nuance, folks. This happens, and now the question is, what do you do? You die. I, that's one thing you can do, but you just gotta. The way I do it, right, is that you gotta, you gotta just keep taking chances. The best example I can tell you about how to develop a winning strategy to solve such situations like this. G has managed to recap his capital. Like I said, he managed through that naval engagement. This is the first time probably where we've seen a naval engagement actually like affect the outcome of a land battle of some kind. That's probably a first for my channel. I don't know if it's a first for like gameplay wise. Probably not. It's probably like hundreds of people that have had battles like that where a navy engagement actually did affect the outcome. But it's the first time that I've seen one, and it's the first time it's happening on this channel. So you guys, you're welcome. You get to see that happen out. There is a second wave that's arrived here, but G has managed to, yeah, G's deployment is not about fighting off the invaders per se. Is he's playing the power projection game by keeping these two heavy units on spaced out like this. He's basically denied this entire area for Shrivas to get any kind of power projection, therefore denying him all the supply. So he can't actually invade anymore. He's basically made a fortress on this island. And whilst he's doing that, he's actually done pretty well in microing his forces on the mainland here. It's not bad. That's not bad. Not bad at all. Yeah, Ron Weasley here is still going in, all in. Um, yeah, going back to how do you deal with the free for all situations? The strategy that I always keep in mind if you want to, get out of such games like this, and it's what's helped me win games in Risk many times before. You want to adopt the James T. Kirk philosophy from Wrath of Khan. I don't believe in no-win scenarios, and basically the no-win the scenario kind of thing is just that you take chances. You just gotta keep gambling and keep your options open. By that, what I mean is that usually when people commit to strategies, they usually think it's a zero-sum game. Is that I must do this, otherwise I die. Um, no, that's not true in games like this where there's so many variables involved and there's like so many moving parts, the kind of strategy you want to keep in mind is that you want to keep your options open. Don't commit to any one thing that will basically deny you opportunities, options, or maneuvers. You want to stay flexible and you want to stay, uh, stay flexible, stay maneuverable. Um, this means that you will have to give up in the short term, lots of opportunities to win minor victories in tactical battles. It's a very complex and once again very nuanced kind of thing that you have to understand. I don't know if I'm explaining it properly or correctly, but you don't commit to any one strategy that takes away the majority of your options are on the table. Try and take the options where you still have opportunities to, come back or pivot. Pivot is probably the better way to describe it. If when I use the term comeback, it probably means that you screwed up so badly that the situation is so so much in favor that it's either coming down to luck or the opponent that's screwing up. That's not the case at all, really. When you get into free for all games like this, strategy wise, yeah, just don't put yourself into a corner. All right, just play it cool, play the long game. The person that is going to win most of the time is the guy that's willing to sit down and play the game to its entirety. Hence the no-win scenario. I don't believe in no-win scenarios kind of thing. Um, this is also another topic which other people have sent in replays that they want me to look into, and actually I think I might cover those games after this because I still think I have those replays that haven't been voided. I don't think there's going to be an major update anytime soon. But yeah, the mental game of War of Dots because there is no timer. Um, Funnily enough, I think there is a bug because I can't get the timer to work for this replay and the previous one. I'm pretty sure it was the number. No, not number 6. Uh, it probably was 5 or 6, which toggles the timer. Hmm. But yeah, I haven't been able to get the timer on. I think it might be bugged out. But yeah, in War of Dots, there is no like fixed timer. It's not like chess where there's a clock that's running and each player only has a certain amount of time. And if a player's time runs down, basically his opponent gets to win. That doesn't occur in War of Dots. And in War of Dots, it's very possible to get into games where it goes on for like 2, 3 hours and the casualties rack up in the millions. It has been known to happen. Um, Yeah, so in War of Dots, you have the strategy of if you have managed to carve out enough of your time in a day and you really want to win, you just sit down in the game, you play a very slow defensive methodical game, and you just wear down your opponent. That is a valid strategy to win games. uh, it's a valid thing in Risk as well. It's one of the things that put me off Risk. Was the games where you kind of got into a stalemate situation, or you got into a situation where it basically was going to be like a really long, slow thing that was going to last like 4 or 5 hours. I just couldn't be bothered to play such games at that point. So it's one of the reasons why I stopped playing that game. Um, Funnily enough, Kill Pete has a couple of videos where he talks about being in such situations. Of course, the natural response to being into games like that, getting to situations where it goes into a stalemate, is just simply don't get into the stalemate. It's up to you to make the correct decisions before you get into that situation. The problem is that, yes, if you're like super really good and you've spent like hundreds of hours identifying how to recognize a stalemate situation is coming about and you know what to do, yes, you can do it. But for your average Joe, he's not gonna be looking into the theory of that kind of gameplay. He doesn't want to be involved in that. And funnily enough, as I said, Kill Pete has talked about it, and apparently there is, well, at the time when I was watching it, there was a trend where the games were going into that kind of like mentality. Players were going into that mentality a lot. And he did mention that we need to not do this because this will put new players off from the game, which I completely agree. Like, let's try not to purposefully try to stalemate the games just because you want to, play this long-term game where you're just trying to wear out your opponent in terms of his time and mental capabilities of sustaining a game for like 4 or 5 hours. That's not fun gameplay, and that's not healthy for the community. We have not gotten into that situation at WoD at this point. The game is, so young, so new, and quite niche. Everyone so far is just having a good time of it all. So yeah, that might be a topic of conversation that we might have to discuss later down on the line. But I've just brought it up there for anybody that doesn't know anything about Risk and is just coming straight into this game. These are things to think about. Yes. So Ron Weasley has managed to completely, well, almost completely kick out Mr. G from the mainland. G has this one scout, Navy scout. It's just like, watching the city here. This is really good. So he's basically got recon intelligence on this coastline. So at any point when opportunity presents itself, Mr. G is going to be able to pivot and go in and attack. And Mr. G, funnily enough, throughout this entire game has demonstrated what I've been yapping on about. Keep your options open. Don't commit to any single one strategy that's gonna force you into a corner and basically doom you. He's played it very well because he's been attacked by both players on this side. Like Ron Weasley here was just on a vendetta. He just wanted to wipe him out. But the only thing stopping him now is Shrivus. He's now the dominant player. Well, the second dominant player. Ron is up in terms of troops here by almost 100,000. So he's not in a decisive winning position, as we've mentioned in the previous replay. That would be when one player has more equal of the troops of the next two after him combined. Um, so yeah, he's not quite there. If he wants to win, he now has to focus on Trivers because he is now the big threat. Mr. G's if Mr. G wants to win this game, it's in his best interest to not attack Shrivers, but go after Ron Weasley here. Um, which is what is happening. You see this right here? Like there's no traditional strategy. If we're talking in a one-on-one situation, there's no reason here as to why blue doesn't just completely wipe out G. But because it's in the free for all situation, it is in both players' best interest now to not murder each other and instead focus on Ron here. Like, yeah, he could just easily wipe out G right here, but it's not gonna happen. So once again, reading player psychology in the free for all game. This is the kind of skill that you need to win these kinds of games, regularly and efficiently. Uh, they don't teach this shit in the academy, right? So, right. I'm not entirely sure how long this game is. I forgot to take a look at the file size. So, considering that I've watched both replays on just one time speed for the most part, I think we'll just continue with that. I've got plenty of things to yap about. You think that I haven't run out of things to yap about? Boy, you wrong. There's a lot of things on the agenda. I haven't talked about Stargates. Okay, we won't go too off topic this game. We'll try not to do that. So, um, We have Shrivas that's maneuvering forces to the back here. Okay, he's just cycling. He's just cycling his reserve defensive line here. Just, I think this defensive line, in my opinion, if I was Shrivas, I'm only deploying troops here just to make sure that I haven't read the situation wrongly. Because now, if I'm Shrivas, I'm thinking, okay, G is somewhat rational. He knows that if he wants to win, he's got to help me thin down Ron Weasley's lines here before that. But that doesn't mean that I completely leave my guard down and leave all my cities undefended completely. So he's got this reserve defensive line here, and he's using this as the reserves to cycle to the front line for the main battle that's going on in the center. Excellent gameplay. This is a beautiful game. Yep, it is a beautiful game. Okay, so G is trying to reclaim his city here, and he's actually making decent progress. He is making decent progress. He's almost there, actually. Ron needs to mobilize his forces because he's got way too many troops just hanging around. There's barely any cycling going on. And cycling that is happening is just too damn slow, man. You gotta, dude, if you're gonna fight this battle, you gotta have fast hands, man. There's no two ways about it. I've talked about this before regards to the APM and War of Dots. It's not that decisive compared to if you're playing StarCraft or even Company of Heroes. But you do need some hands to be moving. Okay, so right there, G has managed to recapture one of his cities back. And he's forced out the armor units. Actually, almost killed it. That is actually pretty impressive. Yeah, chasing that. Attaboy. There we go. Okay. The game is on. Keep up the pressure. Keep up the pressure. Ron is not doesn't seem capable of handling the multiple battles that are happening simultaneously here. Um, yeah, that's not good for him. Okay, now here we go. Ron has managed to build up enough troops that he has almost more troops combined than both Shivas and Mr. G. Uh, so this game isn't over. Even though both players are double teaming him, he's still in the dominant position, and there is still plenty of opportunity for him to actually win this game. He just needs to move his hands. Move your hands, man. Oh Lord. Okay, he's doing cycling now. Okay, yeah, he's trying to get the armor units from the rear cities through the clearings to the front. Mr. G is now consolidating his position. Yes, I agree with this maneuver here. You never know when your ally, quote unquote, might just stab you in the back for no goddamn reason. It has happened before. It's a tale as old as time, folks. You can't trust anybody. It just does not, yeah, it doesn't work out. Play it cool. And once again, the no-win scenario. Just because you're taking the best steps towards your goal of trying to win the game, which is in your best interest, does not mean that you should willingly forego the rest of your options. Keep yourself flexible. All right. So right there, you are a rookie. You're thinking to yourself, okay, I've got this non-aggression pact with Shivas here. We both understand if we want to win this game, we've got to deal with Ron Weasley here for a little bit before the fight's on. But you don't want to fall in the trap of maybe he might just backstab you, which it could have happened. Mr. G could have easily have lost most of his army right there. But at the same time, doesn't mean that you get comfortable with that situation and they just leave your front open. No, 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 no. Play your game, keep your eyes open, and keep your options open. So that's a lot of defensive units for that defensive line here. Yeah, I think both players might be. Hmm, I don't know. Maybe it's just both of them being overly cautious. And both of them are thinking the exact same thing of what I'm describing here. Is that maybe the guy might be trying. You know what I mean? Yeah. So okay. He's gone back to his cycling. They're using his defensive line here to cycle the units on the front. There were some probing attacks by Mr. G here, trying to go and check out whether or not he could go for encirclement. Uh, okay, so there is actually a little bit of efficacy behind Ron's deployment. Is that if you have your dots spread out like this, right? They're all evenly distributed behind your main line. It's very, very difficult for the enemy to give an encirclement. And in the event that your opponent is a little bit inexperienced, it is possible for him to overextend very easily and just walk right into this minefield of dots that you've deployed behind your lines, which makes your life very easy to encircle and pick them off one by one. Um, but I'm of the opinion that no, you should have. If talking about Ron's position here, you should have focused on heavily cycling everything that you had across the front line that was engaged. You had the advantage. You had Mr. G actually isolated. If you could have pushed onto the peninsula here to the west, cut him off, that would have given you good strategic opportunity to just focus on Trivers at that point. Yeah, that's the situation the way I read it. Because now you've given them opportunity to rebuild and remaneuver. So you are still ahead in terms of like troops. You still have more forces than both of them combined, but you are giving them opportunity to regroup and replan and remaneuver. Um, as I said, both players here so far, Mr. G and Trivers, they have showed themselves to be pretty rational. The only person here that we know that is kind of irrational is Ron. And once again, this is another thing that I should have brought up regarding player psychology. Just because you're rational doesn't mean you're gonna win, right? And it doesn't mean just because someone's irrational or stupid, doesn't mean that he's gonna lose. This is a trap that high IQ people always fall into. They think themselves so superior that, oh, I know what the rational moves are. I know what each player should be doing, if it's in their best interest to win the game. No, 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 no. That ain't how this game works, ain't how risk works, it ain't how life works. Okay? That's not not how it is. Just because somebody's irrational and might be stupid. In a free for all game like this, it doesn't mean that he's gonna be the one that loses. Oh no. Oh no. Yep. What a beautiful game. What a beautiful game. Okay, we have the Sit Screen 2.0 going on here. All players have halted their advances. They are consolidating their positions. Mr. G has remaneuvered and pivoted to the front line. I think his concerns about Shrivas here backstabbing him has gone down a little bit, and Shrivas here hasn't really taken that many moves to indicate that he is going to backstab G here. So I think the game has gone on long enough, and enough moves and counter moves have been played out that both players are trusting each other a little bit more than how this non-aggression pact occurred early on. Now remember, all the things that I'm telling you about, and this is in case that you've never played Risk, or you never played War of Dots, or you never played a game that has this kind of a mechanic where it's a free for all game where all the players are trying to achieve the same goal, and it's more than two players involved. Um, yeah, these kind of moves and counter moves, they don't occur over the chat. It's just through the actions of your moves on the board, which is how you communicate with your opponents and your quote unquote allies. That's the other beautiful thing about even when you play Risk. Although the thing about Risk, right? If you play online Risk, you do have like the emoji kind of things. Well, at least the version that I'm aware of. So it is possible to communicate in that version. I think there are like private game modes that people play where you're not allowed to communicate whatsoever except through the moves on the board. I might be wrong about this. I think that is a kind of thing that's somewhere. Um, but here in War of Dots, we do have the chat system which you can send messages. I think it's you can't actually type any messages. It's just fixed messages that the dev has put in the game. Could be wrong about that. I've never used it. That's why. Um, but yeah, there are ways to actually communicate, but it's the pieces on the boards which really is the final end all be all of the comms. Because you could very easily just say, "Oh yeah, team up," put the thumbs up, and then you start immediately backstabbing him at the same time on the board. You just send a commando team to cap the capital. You know, it is what it is. Yeah, such situations happen. Yeah, don't put too much stock into the comms, whatever little limited comms that a game like this would give you. Always read the board situation and then go off on that. The board state does not lie, all right? Unless you're playing Magic the Gathering. In that case, you never know what the hell is happening. I used to play that game quite some time ago. I wasn't any good at it. Um, Probably because the reason why was the best Magic card is the credit card. But I did manage to win my fair share of games in Magic the Gathering without having like a $3,000 deck or anything. Um, but it was tough. When you're playing against a group of players where they have access to the money to get the good cards into the deck, and you don't, you just gotta play your time. You're gonna have to accept that you're gonna lose most of the games, but you're just waiting for that one game where it just goes just your way, and then you have the opportunity to win. Yeah, it can be quite fun, but it gets tiring real fast because it's an unfair game. Everybody else knows it's an unfair game. I'm talking about in my certain situation, of course. Um, what I learned as I grew older regarding like board game communities and card game communities is that different communities play games differently. Like on my Magic the Gathering community that I played with, it was mainly all the kids from my class in school, and I went to an international school, so they was all rich kids. I, however, did not come from a particularly wealthy family. So I always had to budget everything that I bought for that game, but everybody else didn't have to do that. So you got into that situation where everybody else was winning because they had the credit cards. Um, but I had fun just playing the game as it is, but even, young me, even though he was very naive, he wasn't stupid. So eventually I just stopped playing the game because I wasn't having any fun after a while. But yeah, when I grew older and I started looking into well, not looking into, but observing as went to university, which was probably the best eye-opening experience, and I got to see multiple different groups of board games and card game communities existing in different parts of the city and town. That's when I finally realized that, oh damn, okay, so everybody in every community, anywhere, everywhere, they all have different philosophies of how they play the game, basically. Dungeons and Dragons, that's another one. That's probably the biggest one so far. This that Dungeons and Dragons has like so much creativity in the way that you can approach the game. You can play in two different groups, have the same rule set, but your experience will be million light years apart. Um, yeah, that's the thing. It all comes down to the community that you're playing with, how they approach the game. Um, So in Magic the Gathering, I know that there are communities out there where there is a rule amongst them that we're only going to play with certain amount of cards in terms of value between our decks, and then we'll play out like that. There are communities that exist like that. Also, communities that exist where they only play like certain sets of cards and whatnot. So like certain editions, certain I can't remember what they were called. Cycles, was it the Magic the Gathering? I don't know. Yeah, I can't quite recall what all the terms were and all the sets and stuff were. What I have learned recently, because I only very recently started looking back into Magic the Gathering, there's some weird shit going down in that game franchise. Apparently, there's like this multiverse kind of thing that they went from Marvel. I don't know if it was how the marketing played the game looking at Marvel, but they've got like this multiverse thing going on. So they have all the different franchises from everything from like superheroes to other fantasy genres and whatnot. I think there's like a Star Trek Magic the Gathering set that's gonna be coming out. And there's also like a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle set. Like I don't know. I don't know what the hell happened to that game, but it's very different from what I what I used to play. But apparently that's a thing now. So everyone's playing all different kinds of games and things. And apparently you can play against each other. So you could have like I don't know Spider-Man fight off like Raphael from the Teenage Mutant Ninja. It is bizarre as hell. Yeah. But yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if there is groups of Magic the Gathering players right now where they're basically like segregating themselves according to the older sets that they don't want anything to do with this or whatnot. Um, I can definitely see that as something that's going on. I have no proof that that's happening, but it's just my observation of what's going on with that game. I wouldn't be surprised. Um, I know that there's a lot of like I think there are Warhammer groups where people do just play like the older editions, and I never quite understood this until, funnily enough, Minecraft came up about because within the Minecraft community there is a very large minority which only plays like the older versions of Minecraft. And within this minority, there's like subgroups of the specific versions of old Minecraft that people will play. And the internet arguments over this is like absolutely bizarre because it's Minecraft for the love of Christ. If you want to play the old game and you think it's great, that's fine. But at the same time, you don't get what are the grounds for there to you to start insulting and dissing everybody else for playing different versions? And it goes back and forth. The old players will have their arguments with the new players, and new players think that the old players are, jiving at them when in reality, the old players are just trying to vibe with their inner child from when they played the game originally in their childhood, like 10 years ago. Um, eh, like I said, no nuance exists on the internet. It is what it is. Um, but yeah, yeah. I told you I was not gonna run out of things to yap about. So the situation over the last like I don't know 10, 15 minutes has not changed one damn bit. And as I mentioned in the previous video, there was somebody that said that you should not go off topic. You should, well, I say should. He was nicer than that. He's a guy that I've casted multiple times, and I really like. I really enjoy watching his games when he sends it in. But once again, the latest batch that he sent in, all his replays got voided, so I can't cast anything that he has. He hasn't sent anything in new, but yeah, I'm not putting names or anything. But yeah, he said that you should go like the sports analyst commentator uh route for casting the games, and that's never gonna happen, especially for games like this. Like the last few games with the short games, where it's like 5 to 15 minutes. Obviously, I'm going to comment it on the game itself because it's so short. The big battles and tactical stuff are happening. I've got to commentate on that because that's what I'm interested in. That's what you're interested in if you're the viewer and you're watching that. But when you get to games like this, um, like what exactly am I supposed to do? I've already read you out the playbook of what has happened and how the psychology has happened. We're just waiting for something else to occur. And the thing about War of Dots is that you never know when something incredible is gonna happen. And by incredible, I don't necessarily mean good. It can be bad. It doesn't have to be smart. It could be stupid. It happens. And because I did not do my due diligence and checked the replay time on this game, I'm very hesitant to actually start speeding up the replay because I don't know if something incredible is gonna happen and then it just be over like a flash, and then I have to rewind the whole replay again. That would be unfortunate. But one thing I can commentate on is that if you can see here, Shivers has kept his defensive line on the western side. He could very easily completely wipe out G here. It could happen. He could do it, but he's not doing it because of what we've discussed earlier. War of Dots, ladies and gentlemen. I keep saying that, but YouTube tells me that there's like a 0.3% of my viewership women, which I think is a statistical kind of anomaly. There's like what is it called? Error. Yeah, I think that's a scientific term. The error margin. Um, yeah, I don't think. Yeah, there's no way. Everybody knows that girls don't play video games and girls don't exist on the internet. It's a fact that's been known since 2013. Um, Anyways, so the strategic situation, as I've said, hasn't actually changed at all in the last 50 minutes. Okay, that's not entirely true. We have seen here what I was saying 10 minutes ago, that if you're Ron here and you're not trying to push your main strength, which was at that point you had massive numerical superiority because you had more troops than both of your opponents combined, you're giving too much time and space to your opponents to start regrouping, consolidating, and remaneuvering, which is what has happened here. You can see by just in terms of space that's been exchanged here, G has made a lot of progress in the south, and Shrivas is now preparing another offensive in the north. Um, and because we can tell that Ron's, well, at least I'm going off what I've seen here. I could be very wrong. It could be a deliberate strategy on Ron's part to not do heavy cycling, just play a defense in depth kind of strategy. And he just doesn't believe in the offensive, uh, despite having that numerical advantage, which is completely valid, mind you. There are games where that is the right play, but I'm not convinced this was that game. Ron should have been more aggressive and played his strengths far more aggressively. But yeah, judging off what I've seen so far, Ron to me doesn't seem to have the micro and the APM required to quite pull off what would be the best move at his disposal right now. We have here, interestingly, a flank attack on G. Ron can afford to do this because he does have numerical superiority, but that's only if you're counting a one-on-one situation. He can't afford to do that because Shrivas is still maneuvering lots of forces into the north here for a northern offensive. I think Shrivas has figured out that there is not much in the north here. But the problem is that if you're trying to end a round like this, you're playing to the defender's advantage. The defender always has an advantage. Doesn't mean he's invincible, obviously, but you run the risk of encircling yourself because you're pushing deep into his territory. His cities are there. Um, they have the power projection um, advantage. You're at risk of being encircled very easily. But you can see the deployment that Shivers has made here. He's got his supply corridor all set. He's looking pretty good, and he's made it. He can tell this is entire line up to his point completely open. The question is, what's he gonna do about it? If he wants to make any big plays on this northern side here, he's gonna have to mobilize his defensive line that he's kept to keep Mr. G in check here and start making moves. It is still in both Shrivers and Mr. G's best interest to keep on double teaming Ron here because Ron still has the advantage. He is still the dominant player. Um, yeah. Well, what are you going to do? Are you going to do it? This right here is big opportunity. Ron has basically given up the center and he's trying to go after G. And as I mentioned earlier, well, I hope I mentioned earlier, G is convinced that Ron Weasley here is on the vendetta against him for losing the previous game. That's why both these games are part of a series and we're watching them back to back. It does kind of look like it though at this point. Like G here only has 86,000 troops. You outnumber him 5-1. He's the least of your concerns. Um, the only like strategic, like rationale I can think of is that you're trying to get the city here, which would be pretty decisive victory to get back into your own hands. But yeah, the only reason why you're getting away with this, and yeah, he's managed to cap that city. Well, you're pixel off, dude. Uh, Miss Micro, Miss Micro. Yeah, the only reason why you're getting away with this is because Shrivas here is has half his army just deployed on this defensive line here. Um, what are you doing, Shrivas? You really trying to try backstab him after all this time? Your good friend? I don't think so. Like I said, remember, it's got nothing to do with what you or me think is rational, and by you I mean the viewer. Um, it's what the players think is rational at the time that they're playing the game, and their personality and whatnot. Moves are being made, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, Shrivers is doing it. Shrivers is doing it. This is what, yeah, I'm glad I didn't actually speed up the replay, but he's going for it. This is the opportunity right here, folks. Yes, yes, he's pulling his entire defensive line from the back into the center. Oh my god. This is opportunity. Oh, Ron, dude, come on, man. What are you doing? You're not microing anything else. Okay, finally. That took way too long, dude. That took way, way too long. That city should have been kept like a whole 2 minutes ago. Uh, but yeah, no, Ron, you're not really microing anything up here. What are you looking at? I think the game's gone on too long that he's just gonna die. That and the fact that I'm not convinced that he had the fast hands. But once again, as I said, it's not a necessity to actually like win war of dots to have really fast hands. You just need to have some movement of some kind. There was a game that was sent into me where basically the guy thought it was like a really good game on the part of his opponent, but in reality, it was just that he was really bad. The guy who said it basically. Uh, yeah, I ended up deleting that video because it wasn't that entertaining once you've watched the whole replay from start to finish. There wasn't really much that I talked about that was like entertaining or really informative. I found better games that I've recorded and the ones that I have posted, where I explain and teach basically to the new players the inner workings of War of Dots and the kind of things that you can get out of the game if you want to commit time to it. But yeah, okay, so Shriver's offensive. He is now rotating forces from his northern flank. The line of tanks has deterred him from pursuing offensive operations in the north. But opportunity here in the center and the south, he's going all in. Yep. Remember, there's no real. I'm pretty sure if there were messages, it would have showed up in the replay. So there is no real communication going on between Mr. G and Trivers here. This what you're seeing is just purely the pieces on the board being moved and both players understanding the situation and both players actually recognizing that they both have similar rationale of how they want to play this game. They both want to win, both understand the strategic situation, they're both taking their actions to achieve their own goals, which in this case are aligned. Now, here's the interesting thing. What happens once Ron Weasley goes down? Now that, ladies and gentlemen, is where the real fun begins. Uh, and I'm waiting for that situation to occur. There is a chance that it might not happen. Remember, I don't watch these replays before I actually start recording and casting them. I just get the information that the players tell me beforehand. And the, sometimes most of the time they don't really give too much information. Like in this case here, G he watches some of my videos, so he knows how I roll. So he purposefully in the message he just gave me the couple hints here and there of like the story that he he thought was interesting in the game that I would like that he would like me to tell, which is in this case the vendetta by Ron here. Um, and then he left the rest of it to me. uh, Other players will give me like the full after action report. There is a video that by the time this is posted, I've probably already posted it, where the guy actually gave me like the play by play breakdown of the whole game, from start to finish. Um, yeah, I enjoy it. But what a player thinks happened or happened during the game, and then how he recollects it, uh, it is very rarely is 100% of what actually happened in the game. Like, um, it's very hard to explain, but it's something you get very often. You realize, and historians are always the first to showcase this. We're talking about like real life battles and campaigns and whatnot. The combatants themselves are usually not the most trustworthy sources of information as to what happened during a specific historical event. Because one, they could be biased, and two, even if they're not biased, human nature basically comes into play. Um, Humans by themselves are not the best recording machines ever created in the history of the world, of the universe. We are all subject to our own subconscious biases that, subconsciously can influence the way that we recollect events. And in terms of battles and whatnot, you could have two people who were on the same side, who both had the same, biases. In this case, his hypothetical situation, but well, not so hypothetical because it has actually happened, but not quite the way I'm explaining it here. But you could have instances where two combatants who were on the same side, fought in the same battle, both recollect the events of the moves during the battle differently, and the reasons behind why such moves were made. They could also not agree on after the battle has been fought and they're recollecting the battle. They could have two completely different reasonings and reasons as to why their general made a decision, and they both might have credible evidence to support both of their sides. And it's up to the historians, or up to us folks, that if you're like me at least, reading the history books, it's up to us to decide what the hell happened. Because they obviously can't agree on what the hell happened. but we can agree that the event did happen and the outcomes of such an event did happen. Those are the things, like when you get into historiography, that's the term, the history of history. Um, there's the new in thing amongst the academics and the historical community, um, where we've bought into this postmodernist philosophy that there is no objective truth, that all these things are like, I'm not entirely sure if I'm explaining it quite correctly here because it's been some time since I've been into a proper academic argument. But yeah, the postmodernist whole shtick is there is no objective truth. That these are all, different people who have different perspectives and they're all equally true or not true. Um, yeah, I don't buy that. When it comes to history, at least, yes, we may not know what exactly happened because none of us were there, and even if we were there, we may not have recorded it in such a way, like have 4K video footage of like a battle of Gettysburg or whatever. uh, yes, maybe certain instances didn't happen, and the different combatants in that battle recollect what happened differently, and they may have conflicting evidence, which may be pretty substantial and credible, that conflict with each other. But what we can agree on is that that event, like in this hypothetical argument, Battle of Gettysburg did happen. It did happen in this space, and the outcome of that battle was such and such, that the Union defeated Bobby D. Lee and the Army of the Southern Virginia in a pitched battle at Gettysburg, and these were the consequences that eventually affected the outcome of the campaign and affected the outcome of the war. Like the big things we can identify happened. Yeah, but the details, we can argue that for all eternity, but it's not, in my opinion, a credible argument to say that there is no such thing as objective truth. I don't buy that for one damn second. So, we have had the offensive in the center here go on for probably 5 minutes since I started this tangent that I went on. And both Mr. G and Shrivis are still upholding their non-aggression pact. Now you see here, G, my man, he's put this one lone tank unit behind this mountain, and judging by the distance, he's purposefully put it in this situation, this position here, that it's behind the fog of war. I don't think that Shrivis has seen that, and he's now maneuvering it out. Interesting. I think he's kept it here for some time, and it was just there as a stopgap measure to make sure that he had a unit that could defend the bridge in the event that he needed to properly defend the bridge from any backstab that happened from Shrivis. But since it hasn't happened, he's now happy to fully commit everything. We also see, and this is once again communication in games like this, Shrivis has deployed because he had a massive reserve that he redeployed to the rear. He has forgone all that. He's deployed everything to the front. He's got his reserve of badly damaged units here now that he's trying to cycle out. I think, I'm not sure. No, he's not. He's not doing much cycling actually. I don't blame him. The game has gone on for so damn long that even myself in one-on-one games, When he gets onto this point, you'll see my cycling kind of go down in its rate. Um, yeah, it happens. But I would still try my best if you had the capability to do so. Keep cycling, bro. Don't stop. Don't stop. Okay, so and the session of that was yapping. This city has exchanged hands again. But it's not looking good for Mr. G. There's a lot more fresh armor units here that's bearing down on his position. And most of his units are already depleted in terms of health and morale. Um, that's not good. That's not good. We have a minor encirclement in the south here. This guy's toast. Uh, I think you're overextending here, G. I don't think the city is really. I don't know. The question here, the strategic question is this city worth fighting over and sacrificing this many units? It is if your friend over here is gonna do some major boost. Yes, if this gets pulled off, then the fighting over this city is definitely worth it. Oh yeah. Oh yeah, we'll cook it now. Okay. Full offensive along the whole front line. We've got the breakthrough here. You gotta stop maneuvering. Don't get pinned down too much with this. Yes, 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 yes. Bypass, bypass. Very good, very good. Bypass. You only need to have a couple units to pin the guy down. Okay, you've retreated him far enough. Good. Keep going, keep going, keep going. Yes, opportunity for encirclement here. Um, he does not have enough mass to counter this. He's got his units too spread out in the rear here. He committed way too much to this. Ron, you screwed up, son. G wasn't worth it. Okay, yeah, you still have opportunity to break out here. You still have a lot of fresh armor units. Most of the units that Shrivis has deployed here are all lights. You can counter and circle. You have opportunity to counter and circle here. Uh, yes, yeah. So long as you got some units here to keep the corridor open, you're fine. Okay, okay. What are you doing wrong? You're giving up the entire south. You're leaving the southern city completely undefended as well. That is not that is not a good move. This is no. If you yes, it is the correct maneuver to withdraw, but not this way. The city is just behind the fog of war that G doesn't see that it's undefended now. That could change quite rapidly though. What are you doing, Ron? You've completely given up the entire south. You weren't in that bad of a situation, dude. You still had more troops than both players combined. You were okay. Remember, they were also bleeding out quite a lot. You had the defender's advantage. Just collapse the defense around your cities and let them come on in, and the defense will solve itself at that point. My favorite strategy. Um, but yeah, see, he's run out of steam. Shivas has run out of steam. You didn't need to give up that much. And does G realize that he can go for the city? This is another thing to talk about regarding War of Dots is that as the game goes on longer, the efficacy of going for mass armor units increases because you get more play out of it basically, and you have the time to play with the armor units. I've already showcased two games, one of which I played actually, regarding the lights versus heavy build order. But like I said, that was a one-on-one type situation game. For a free-for-all game, the strategic calculus changes a lot. And yeah, I can definitely see that going armor, uh, sh- especially early on, can definitely pay off. But yeah, what is going on? Okay, yeah, G finally figures out that there's nothing in the south. So going back to Mr. I don't win, I don't believe in no win scenarios. G here kept his options open. He kept his options open throughout the entire game. And look where he is. He has managed to reclaim his starting position. Well, by reclaim his starting position, I'm talking about cities basically and space. In terms of units, he's not there. He's not quite there. And in terms of the balance of power, the balance of power, my favorite term. But yeah, he's still not quite there. Um, okay, since he capped that city, Ron here is gonna have a couple of units start depleting because he doesn't have the supply necessary to keep his entire force in play now. Or does he? Nah, I don't think so. Um, yeah, dude, no, willingly giving up a city like that. There are situations in Risk where doing that is the best play. One situation in Risk is when you know that a player is intent on really taking a specific set of territories or continent. It's usually not in your best interest to confront that opponent. In the example that I gave earlier in this video, where it was the North America, South America situation in the opening. It doesn't matter whether it's in the opening, the middle, or the end game in Risk. If there's still multiple players on the board, and one player really intends to fight you over something, um, it is usually in your best interest to just let it be. If the guy really wants Australia, fine. You can have it. We're not gonna start bleeding hundreds of troops over this continent for this two troop boost. I'm willing to take that loss now so that I have opportunity to win the game later on. That kind of strategic calculus still exists. And right. So with regards to this specific game here, yeah, for Mr. G, he was willing to keep his options open, which he did. He played the long game. He took tactical losses along the way, but as you can see here, he's made the comeback. He's he's reclaimed all of his cities that he started off with. And yes, ladies and gentlemen, if we take a look here, the balance of power and the politics of this game are changing. Shrivas has redeployed an entire core of units to the western. And ladies and gentlemen, Shrivas is going for the backstab. Shrivas says, oh my, G. Okay, the G sees it. Here's the thing, right? G, because he's already reclaimed the cities, he's not actually under threat of any major encirclement. Even if he cuts off this line here, and even if Shrivas deploys his units across the water to actually physically cut off all the supply lines, um, he has enough cities here to supply his army on the mainland now. So it's not that big of a loss. Okay, you see this, ladies and gentlemen? Yep, Shrivas, he knows what he's doing. But here's the thing: there's still a massive battle going on in the northern front. Um, I okay. So looking at the troop deficit, right? Yes, the balance of power has already shifted. The moment that Ron no longer had uh troops equal to the amount of both of them combined, the entire calculus of the game changed. And Shrivas here, he noticed it and he acted upon it immediately. And this is why things are going the way they are going. What on earth? Okay, now this, once again, as I said, Ron is not the rational player in this game. He not only gave up. Okay, what the hell happened here? I don't think G was paying attention to the micro on this side here. He just lost that city. It's not that bad of a situation because of how depleted Shriva's units are and how spread out they are, especially because of what Ron is doing. Okay, let me go back to what I was talking about, Ron. Ron hasn't been that rational, and he's done two major moves here that made absolutely no sense. First, he gave up the south, which he didn't need to, and now he's given up the east, which has basically given G the advantage. Okay, I think I kind of know what's going on. The game's gone on for too long that Ron just doesn't give a damn anymore. That's what I'm going with here, and it happens. It happens in Risk all the time as well. This situation right here, and fun enough, is what we've been talking about earlier, but this is a slight variation. Once a player's rationality, strategic logic has gone out the window. Things like this does happen. Ron has decided that he has had enough of this game and he's just gambling everything that he has on a full offensive against Shrivas, who, I don't know, maybe in his mind, the way the game has gone on, he's decided that this guy in particular, I don't like him, he dies first. which is interesting because at the beginning of the game, it was Mr. G that he was going after. But yeah, that's the kind of player that Ron is, and yeah, that's War of Dots, folks. And G is about to cap everything here. He's about to cap the capital, cap the last city here, and there's nothing Shivers can do. Yeah, look at the balance of power here in terms of troops. G is now ahead. War of Dots, folks. That's War of Dots, baby. Rod, Rod has just suicided YOLO into Shivers, and if you're in Shivers's uh s- shoes, right? And you're thinking to yourself, why me, dude? Why did you have the switch and just suicide into me? Um yeah, that's War of Dots, baby. Is there anything you can do? There is always something you can do. There's always opportunities, but at the end of the day, if it is like this bad of a situation, you're toast. You're toast. I mean, look at how the balance of power shifted. G is now about to have equal amount of troops to both of his opponents combined. The whole strategic situation just flipped on its head, and it can happen just like that. Um, Ron has lost most of his cities, so his units are just dying off now. But of course, before he died, he decided to full send everything into Shrivas. So Ron is about to die, and Shrivas is not going to be in any strategic position to actually do anything. Shrivas is trying to make some last minute plays here, and I gotta applaud this. He's still in the fight. He's going full James T. Cook himself. He knows that he's got to make something happen, and he's going for the island that where G's HQ is. Trying to knock that out. He's actually getting kind of close. He's getting pretty close to achieving that. Once you lose your capital city, you lose the ability to make troops. But here's the thing: I don't know if that's how it works in free for alls, because there are multiple capitals, and since G has already captured Ron's capital, I don't think losing this capital is that big of a strategic loss for him. Could be wrong. If you've made it this far into the video, thank you for watching Merlin Yap about random shit in the MS Paint strategy game. But if you know the answer to that, please let me know in the comments so that I can learn and everybody else who's watching the video can learn as well. Um, he's getting close. He's getting close to getting it. Right. We have an amphibious relief force being assembled here in the south, and he's maneuvering. So Ron's dead. He's gone. And now it's just a one-on-one, and basically the way that it worked out, G is in a massive advantage. He's got almost 2-to-1 advantage in troops. Shivers' last final play was an amphibious assault onto the island, which, right off the bat, strategically, operationally, not the most favorable move for him, especially in terms of success rates. And it's basically failed. Yep. These guys encircled. He's got the armor units alive and deployed. They're fine. The relief force is on the way. There's nothing you can do at this point. More peak gameplay right here. Just full sending the unit into the water to cut off the supply. Absolutely amazing. And there's nothing you can do. Oh, shoot. He caught the city. It's too little too late, though. I'm sorry. You got 5 tanks bearing down on this one isolated dude. It's not much you can do. Nah, you can see like Shivas, he did all the rational moves. He had the right strategies. He had the tactics, no doubt about that. It just didn't work out the way it did because Ron, at the end of the day, decided to YOLO into him. So it is what it is. And as I was saying, yes, if you go Mr. I don't win, I don't believe in no win scenarios, it doesn't necessarily mean that you will win. But it does give you the most opportunity to win out of that situation. And yeah, Travis is now completely given up now. He's just full sending everything that he's got. We'll just increase the replay here. A couple. Oh, I can't do that. We got too many units on the board that the replay system is not capable of coping, we'll just run it on one time speed then. But no, the game's over. I have actually commentated on the game that has lasted I don't even know how long. Oh my god, it's actually getting late. I got work tomorrow. Um, yeah, let's try speed it up. Nope, nope, that's breaking the game. We won't do that. Yep. Yeah, that's basically it. I think I've covered quite a lot in terms of like WoD strategy. Um, hopefully what I've rambled on makes sense to some people. um I may not be the best teacher for these things. If you are interested in games like these, right, where it's multiple, where it's a strategy game and it involves multiple players all going against the same goal, but they have to compete against each other, and it's more than two players involved in this in such a game, you should go to Kill Pete Strategy and watch some of his older videos. um I would put the links in, but I myself, if I went to look for it now, I don't think I could find the specific videos. But I highly doubt Pete has changed his content strategy. So even if you watch recent games, I'm pretty sure he'll still be talking about the same things. Risk has been around for decades. All the things that I've been talking about, he talks about. It's not uh it's not novel things. It's not new things that we're talking about. These are concepts and strategies that go beyond games. These are things that real life, especially the game theorists, they talk about things that we've talked about in this video regarding games like these. It's been well documented. It's been well argued and talked about. You can find a lot of resources on it in many different places. You've got international relations theory. You've got game theory. You've got just basic military strategy. Coalition warfare. That's the one thing that I know a little bit about that I've looked into. That has the um, closest real life kind of relevance, yes, to what we've discussed in this specific game so far in this specific video. Coalition warfare and nuclear strategy, both of those have the closest kind of relevance to the things that we've discussed here. Nuclear strategy more so, because during the Cold War, there was like great debates and concerns over how the Americans viewed their quote unquote rational strategies behind nuclear warfare compared to that of the Soviets. And they weren't quite sure whether the Soviets were on the same page as they were. Um, and once the Cold War ended and we entered a unipolar um, um, world order, we did find that history didn't quite end the way that Fukuyama predicted, and we ended up into a strategic calculus we got with regards to nuclear weapons that was not quite gamed out previously. That people have had to go back and rethink and game out differently. So there's that. If you want to look into these things, nuclear warfare and the development of nuclear strategy. And the other thing, as I say, was coalition warfare. The Napoleonic Wars is probably your best bet to start with regards to coalition warfare. Um, you could go to the Second World War, but if I'm going to be honest, Second World War, coalition warfare, and Napoleonic Wars, they're quite drastically different. The Napoleonic Wars is the one that you want to go to if you found what I've discussed in this specific video. It will be much closer and relevant. Because remember, in the Napoleonic Wars, yes, everybody wanted Napoleon gone, but everybody had different ways of how they wanted to go about doing that. And everybody had so many different agendas. And in terms of like the balance of power, like there were stark differences between all the different nations that were involved in that period of warfare, that you couldn't just simply ignore any one nation. because they did all have immense power in their own territories and within their own spheres of influence. Um, Interesting stuff, very interesting stuff. And as I've said in on my channel that I've covered before, specifically with Foxhole, I'm very interested in like the political and the military, that kind of strategy, the bridging the gap between how they use military force to achieve a political end state. Um, yeah, good stuff. So the game's almost over. I'm not gonna risk trying to put up the replay because, we saw just now, I was kind of breaking the game a little bit. So it's Jover, 400,000 against 36,000 troops. Shivers is just playing it out. I don't blame him. If you some people think that if you're in such a situation like this, right, you should just give up. That's the proper quote unquote etiquette. Like I can't quite agree with that all the time. Because like if you were in Mr. G's situation at the very start of the game, then by that logic, you should have just given up already because you lost basically everything. Both the other players had far larger armies that were like, several factors more than you. Should have just given up, right? But no, G is the winner here. He he played it out basically perfectly. Of course, unlike chess and unlike in a 1v1 situation, there is no real quote unquote perfect play for it, especially considering how messy this whole game was. And I've hopefully properly commentated and analyzed why certain things were not rational and whatnot. But yeah, okay. Time to end the video here. If you made it this far, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.